Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forests of the night, what jihadi hand or eye dare harm thy fearful symmetry? Tiger, tiger, burning bright, did a jihadi set you alight? Did he smile his work to see? Did he who hates the lamb burn thee? That's the great literature for today, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, and welcome to This Week in Jihad with the great David Wood, who you will see on your screen on the right-hand side. And I am Robert Spencer, author of the Quran, on the left, geographically. David, good evening.
How you doing, Robert?
David, thank God, every day above the ground is a good day. And so we are happy to be back, to be chronicling the jihad. I've got such a cornucopia, a veritable superabundance this week of stupid infidels. It's really been a big week for the stupid infidels. We could probably do the whole show on stupid infidels, but there is a little bit of other jihad. In any case, why don't we dive into Facebook? Facebook has been discovered through its through the Tech Transparency Project, which is a watchdog group. They created over 100 pages. Facebook did not just host, but created pages for ISIS and Al-Qaeda. And Facebook created these pages based on its algorithm, automatically generating them when users would add ISIS or Al-Qaeda to their profiles. The bans on the groups did nothing to stop this automatic process, although I can guarantee you that it stopped any similar action on the other side among foes of jihad violence. I've been so shut down on Facebook. It's hardly. I post there the Jihad Watch posts, but I often wonder if it's even worth doing because nobody sees them, and Facebook makes sure of that. But ISIS and Al Qaeda, not only do they make sure that you see them, but they're creating the pages for them themselves.
And that's interesting. That's actually what I think that's what YouTube is being sued for right now. I think this is the case that the Supreme Court is looking into right now because the idea behind Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act that you shouldn't hold platforms accountable for what people post there. But what's being argued in court is that these aren't just places where people post content. They boost certain content, they moralize other content, and therefore, I think it's someone who had a family member killed by jihadis, and that like jihadis are like radicalized on YouTube or something like that. So, because there's no shortage of jihad videos on YouTube. I mean, to this day, Ali Dawa, you can find him right there. Yes, as soon as we get power, we're chopping your heads off. Sheikh Asim al-Hakim, he lays out the 3 stages of jihad exactly as I do, telling his followers to prepare for the day when they can go door to door, giving people 3 options: convert, pay jizya, or, in his words, and I mean, on Facebook, I actually got off there years ago because I couldn't post anything. I actually posted. It's a famous picture, Robert. You remember that picture of the guy who's sitting there with his arms crossed while all the other workers are hailing Hitler?
Oh yeah, sure.
They ordered the crowd. They ordered the crowd to salute Hitler, and one guy stood there with his arms crossed and refused to do it. And so I posted on Twitter. I posted on Facebook. Picture of that guy with a circle around him and said, "Be this guy." In other words, be the guy who would not salute Hitler. Facebook took that down as hate speech.
Yep. Yeah. Several times Facebook has banned me from posting for several days because of Jihad Watch posts quoting jihadis, and they say you can't promote terrorism, as if that's what I'm doing. But in any case, yeah, I would love to get off there. I cannot, for various reasons, not really worth going into here. But anyway, one day I'm going to be gone from there, and it's going to be a day for celebration. Anyway, David, I was hoping you could fill in some of the details on this very curious stupid infidel story. This is a stupid journalist's story because we have The Independent from the UK, but it wasn't just The Independent. It was every last news outlet that reported this. Edward Little pleaded not guilty to plotting a terror attack at Speaker's Corner in London's Hyde Park. He planned to buy a gun and shoot dead our friend Hatun, the famous, formidable, and extraordinarily courageous Christian preacher and apologist who goes to Speaker's Corner. Now, I remember when this happened, when this guy was arrested, that people were saying, oh, it was a Christian. You see, it was a Christian who was going to kill Hatun or wanted to. But nothing is said in any of the articles about Edward Little's point of view. His picture, his jailhouse drawing, courthouse drawing, whatever it is, it looks as if he's got a beard that could be a jihadi type, follower of Muhammad type beard, but it might not be. And I was wondering if you had any information, since the journalists are steadfastly refusing to tell us any details.
Yes, well, as I pointed out many times, Islam operates on what's called the 99-1 rule, meaning if you know 99% of people are just going to mindlessly accept and repeat whatever you say, then you make things up all you want, because the 99 can drown out the one who actually looks into what you said and realizes it's. Hatun has been attacked multiple times at Speaker's Corner. She's been she's been stabbed in the face. She's been hit in the face, and every time it's basically if they catch the guy, then it's one thing. But if they don't catch someone who does something at Speaker's Corner, a guy runs off or something like that, or they catch him and Hatun says, I don't want to press charges, I don't care, and they let him go, then all the Muslims run out and say, actually the guy's Christian, and they'll just say it, and then they'll all start bragging about it online. And it was interesting because after the one time when she was in the face, I mean, she's actually hit in the face. She's sitting there showing a cartoon of Muhammad. A guy hits her in the face, and Muslims say afterward that this was some sort of like a Arab Christian was upset because they don't want to honor Muhammad there, and so this was a Christian who got mad and hit her, and Muslims spread this, and they just instantly, and then they spread it all over the internet. But then Muslims who actually knew the guy were online going, okay, guys, we need to be honest. We need to this was definitely a Muslim. We know the guy. He's a Muslim. Mm-hmm. And oddly enough, those messages eventually disappeared, and they just kept saying he's a Christian over and over again. Mm-hmm. And it's just a culture where if lying helps you block a criticism against Muhammad, or if lying helps you silence a critic or something like that, then you lie. And that's actually the situation. But I've never seen any evidence that anyone who's attacked Hatun is actually anything other than a Muslim.
Sure. And I suspect that Edward Little is a convert to Islam, and that's why they don't say anything whatsoever in the news reports about his motivations. But I also should note, before we move on to the next thing, that it is remotely possible that Edward Little or one of the other attackers that Hatun has suffered could be a non-Muslim. I don't think that any of them could be serious Christians, obviously, but remember Volkert van der Graaf. Volkert van der Graaf is the killer of Pim Fortuyn, who was a politician who was very critical of Islam and mass Muslim migration in the Netherlands in the early 2000s. And he was a leftist, he was gay, he was all these things that didn't fit the paradigm but he was very critical of Islam. Anyway, he was murdered by Volkert van der Graaf, and Volkert van der Graaf was not a Muslim, but he said when he was on trial or when he was arrested, I killed Fortuyn for Dutch Muslims, because he thought it was so terrible that Fortuyn was standing in the way somehow of Dutch diversity and multiculturalism. All
Yeah, and
right.
I mean, you can. Oh, I just wanted to point out. I mean, yeah, you can in any situation if you don't know the identity of the attacker, you can always. It's always possible, for all you know, that it's something other than what you would expect. We've mentioned this before, and we're talking about like a in Pakistan when a mosque gets attacked, when there's a suicide bomber in a mosque. Well, there are lots of disgruntled Christians in Pakistan. There are lots of disgruntled Hindus in Pakistan, but we just know from the MO that it's very likely some jihad group from some sort of different sect or different political affiliation than that mosque, and that's why it's being attacked. But notice, before we actually know, it's always possible. It's always possible that you had some Hindu or some Christian or something like that totally
Mhm.
upset and goes on a killing spree. So you can have these things. It's just if you want to if you want to say that the guy attacking Hatun Tash for holding up a Muhammad cartoon is something other than a Muslim, burden of proof is on you in that one.
Indeed. Okay, I got a good one out of France here. Uh, the French, there are at least a few enterprising business people in France. David, can you see the screen today? I never know. Do you have the screen?
I see it.
Okay.
My screen in front of me. Yes.
Okay, so let's see if I can do this here. This is a page from the online catalog of camouflages.com. Whoops, that's with a K. That is a French clothing company, and they are selling anti-beheading clothing. And you see on the second row, it says, I don't read French, but sweatshirt noir anti-couteau. That's anti-knife black sweatshirt. And you see he's got the high
Oh,
collar, so he can't get beheaded. And the next one, protege, whatever that is, anti-couteau, but the guy's wearing some sort of a thing over the bottom half of his face and his neck, and it's anti-couteau, anti-knife again. And then you've got all sorts of anti-knife products as you go through this catalog. They are going to give you clothing that is apparently thick enough around the neck that you can walk out in Paris and not worry about being beheaded. It would be
I mean,
Islamophobic, of course, to deal with the actual cause of why you need this clothing.
yeah, I mean, my goodness, they need these in the UK. I mean, everyone at
Yeah.
Speaker's Corner needs these now, apparently, but especially in London, it's like becoming the knife attack capital of the world. But yeah, but I mean, yeah, notice. So you got two options: either don't bring in people who want to chop your head off, or everyone walk around in body armor.
Yeah,
So
that's it. So that's the wave of the future. I expect this company is going to have great success and meet with tremendous profits so that maybe it can expand into Britain and elsewhere.
hey, how brilliant would it be? How brilliant would it be if the ultimate moving force but behind bringing in so many jihadis from Afghanistan and Pakistan, what if it's actually a clothing company lobbyist, right, who's like like their goal all along has been to sell a bunch of a new line of body armor shirts, and so you had to make everyone terrified of getting their throats cut.
That's
That'd be brilliant.
beautiful. You know, Lenin said it too. The capitalists will sell us the rope we'll use to hang them. And so here you have it. French capitalists capitalizing. I'm sure that now, the people that run these companies, they have to vote for more mass migration because otherwise their sales are going to suffer. All
Can't bet.
right, And of course, in Britain, David O is a very rich vein for stupid infidels. We have Abdullah Qureshi. Abdullah Qureshi is the gentleman who, a few months ago, he he actually traveled a long way. It's not in this story, but as I recall, he traveled a couple of hours across England and went to an area that is heavily Jewish and stabbed, or did he stab or just otherwise assault 5 visibly Orthodox Jews? Yeah, he beat them. And it's very clear if you followed the case that this guy was motivated by, let me see if I can get his picture here real quick. I will give up if it doesn't work.
Yeah, go ahead and work on pulling up that picture while I point out a pretty cool money making scheme that we could have.
Yeah.
We
Whoop,
should
wrong
we should
guy.
be the ones we should be the ones marketing those neck proof, those stab proof sweatshirts. We should be marketing. That should be our sponsor on This Week in Jihad, right? This week in
That's it.
Another week of This Week in Jihad brought to you by this company.
Camouflages.
Sweatshirts.
There he is, Abdullah Qureshi. Now you see this. He's got the beard. He's got the kufi. He's clearly an observant Muslim. If he's not an observant Muslim, he sure does seem to want to blend in among observant Muslims. He travels a great distance. He assaults 5 Jews. And the British authorities have just found that he is suffering from a mental disorder. And so that is the end of it. He's going to a psychiatric hospital. He's not going to prison.
Well, that's kind of the pattern, isn't it?
Yes.
And we've talked about this repeatedly, that it's actually journalists and politicians and educators who are convincing people that these guys are crazy. Because when you spread the myth that none of this has anything to do with Islam, but this guy says it's because of Islam, he's got to be crazy, because anyone who knows anything about the Quran knows it teaches no compulsion in religion. And if anyone kills a man, it's as if he's killed all mankind. And so, I mean, if you look at that and you say, it's telling you to kill, you're obviously insane. And so,
because that's all the Quran says. Everybody knows that. Every last Western politician in the world will tell you that when you open the Quran, it says there is no compulsion in religion. He who kills one person, it is as if he has killed all mankind. The end. That's it.
Yeah, Muhammad came along. He said, hey, everyone, I'm from God. There's no compulsion in religion. If you kill, it's as if you killed all mankind. Goodbye.
You could print wallet cards with the entire Quran. 3x5 cards. Muhammad should have done that. All right, Pakistan and Norway have gotten together. Unlikely pair. They've had high-level conferences this week between the foreign ministers, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari and his Norwegian counterpart, Anniken Huitfeldt, and they have decided to work together to prevent Islamophobia. Now, what do you think that means, David, in the context of an agreement between Pakistan and Norway?
Well, it obviously means they're going to work together in stopping people from randomly attacking Muslims who are minding their own business, because that's this epidemic apparently somewhere.
Yes. The real clue as to what they are talking about and what is likely to happen comes to us from Sweden, next to Norway. And in Sweden, just a few weeks ago, David, there was the burning of the Quran by Rasmus Paludan, who is protesting against the contents of the Quran and the mass migration policies that bring these people into Europe and have disrupted Europe in so many ways. And the Swedes actually allowed for the burning of the Quran on freedom of expression grounds. But now they have reversed themselves because they want to enter NATO. They're afraid of Russia because they think Russia's going to beat Ukraine and then they'll beat Poland and then who knows, Sweden could be next. And they are afraid. And so they want to join NATO and get the United States to be defending them. But Turkey has a veto, and Turkey says you can't join NATO if you keep allowing these Quran burnings. So suddenly Sweden has banned burnings of the Quran. And what's really interesting, though, is that the newspaper Expressen, Dagens Nyheter, another newspaper there, they dug up the actual police communications about the new rules and about how burning the Quran is illegal. And they specify that burning the scriptures of other religions is just fine. Only burning the Quran is not permitted. Why do you think that might not be a wise course of action?
There are all kinds of reasons that would not be a wise course of action, but they just sent a huge message to all the Muslims who were, burning cars and things like that. That anytime you want to get your way with us, just do that. Just start burning everything to the ground and rioting in the streets, and then state what you want, and we'll give it to you, and we'll make the exact same kinds of laws they have in Sharia zones. Notice, the heart of Sharia is just Muslims are superior to you, and that's what we find over and over again. Islam is just superior to everything else, and that's the goal. And have you noticed that um, when Muslim organizations Muslim countries, enter the UN or NATO or whatever it may be, um, the the nations always end up trying to control speech everywhere else, and you have to agree, because then you can't get anything you want, because then they have veto power over you.
Mm-hmm. So that's where we're going. That's where it's heading. And now Sweden, though, it's actually, I should make sure that we understand. This is the Swedish police who have done this. The Swedish constitution still allows for the freedom of expression. And so the Swedish police official, Ola Österling, he actually said that he wants there to be legal challenges to this so that it will go to the courts and be decided. He thinks he's on firm ground. But there is still hope, some slim hope perhaps, that the Swedish courts will come around for the freedom of expression. As you say, it's a very dangerous precedent, and it's just saying you can get anything you want from us if you threaten to kill us.
Yeah, and isn't it the things that seem absolutely obvious to us, for some reason the people in any position of power can't see. I mean, if you want to stop the violence, you just have to pick something, stand your ground, be ready to stand your ground until they get sick of the tantrums and the whining. And then they've realized it doesn't work. And then you've taught them a valuable lesson. When you say, guys, you can riot all you want, we are never, ever, ever changing this. Or even better, guys, if you riot in the streets over that guy burning the Quran, next week we're going to come out, we're going to burn 100 Qurans. And if you throw violent tantrums over that, the week after, we're going to come out, we're going to burn 10,000 Qurans. And we're going to keep doing that until you stop throwing violent tantrums. That's how it is. That would solve the problem.
It seems commonsensical.
Very quickly.
I don't understand, David. It makes so much sense.
Instead, it's, hey, we really want to send a message to these guys who throw violent tantrums anytime they don't get their way. I know. Let's encourage them. It's like it's like a kid throws a tantrum on the floor in Walmart because mom won't buy him any Skittles. His mom's like, "Oh, here, I'll give you all the Skittles you want as long, if you get up off the ground and stop throwing your tantrum. Great. Take that kid to Walmart next time it happens."
That's right. You would think that, we learned all this. We learned all this in third grade. We knew that. We knew that if you give in to a bully, you just encourage him. And yet like you say, when you get into a position of power, suddenly all these things are forgotten. Another case in point in that regard is Nika Nikoubin. Do you remember Nika Nikoubin?
I do
She
not.
is the charming Iranian girl who went to Las Vegas. She's a permanent resident of the United States, but she was born and raised in Iran. And she went to Las Vegas and went on a dating website called Plenty of Fish. And she found a fish. She found this guy who goes back to a hotel room with her, and she started in the middle of their amorous activities. She took out a knife and began to stab him. Where was she stabbing him, David? It's amazing. It's uncanny. That's exactly where it was, in the neck. And she explained when she was arrested that she did it in revenge for the killing of the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps Quds Force commander Qasem Soleimani in 2020. And
I remember this now.
now this guy that she picked up in Las Vegas didn't have anything to do with Qasem Soleimani, but she was practicing what we are always told that we are doing, collective blame. Actually, it's another example of accusing your opponent of what you yourself are guilty of, because we never blame all Muslims for all these things. Never have. But constantly we see jihadis acting as if all non-Muslims or all Christians or all Americans or whatever group, they all are responsible for what one of them does. So, any American, she said she just wanted to shed the blood of an American in revenge for Soleimani. Anyway, she was given an extraordinarily light sentence for this. She was put under house arrest. But then, nobody was watching. She's supposed to be under house arrest, which I thought house arrest meant you stay in your house. You can't go out. You want to go to the store, somebody's got to go for you because you ain't going. I was naive. House arrest for Nika Nikoubin meant making music videos. And and enrolling in college. And everybody involved says they had no idea. The local police say they didn't know they were supposed to be watching her. The college said, we didn't know that she stabbed some guy in the neck in Las Vegas for Iran. Nobody knew. Nobody was paying any attention. And meanwhile, she's living high.
Well, after that chart-topping album she put out,
I listened to some of her
probably
videos. She's got a YouTube channel. It's under the name Nika Barouge. And it's just the same stuff, the stuff these kids today like. It's machine-made anonymous technopop, but there she is, leading it.
she'll be doing a collaboration with Cardi B here in a couple weeks, probably.
Yep. I wouldn't be surprised at all. And it would be Islamophobic to object, of course. Okay, so then we have in Germany. This story just boggles the mind. In Germany, there was this guy from Afghanistan, Maisam Y. They, as once again we see, they never released the last name. My Sam said that, my Sam actually sexually abused a boy who was 6 and a girl who was 8. And he was deported from Germany to Afghanistan? No, of course not. That would be dangerous. He was deported to Switzerland. But the Swiss didn't want him either. And so he is now disappeared. I got this out of an Austrian paper, and they're afraid he's going to show up there. But the real stupid infidels aspect of this is that after he abused these children who were his neighbors' children, he explained it was all so stressful because of my German course. He was taking German, and it was so difficult. He found the stress was impossible to deal with. He had to take out his stress on the neighbor children. And they bought it, of course. He gets 3 years for molesting 2 kids, and he's sent to Switzerland.
It's like these guys come from countries where if you do something to some kids, you can pretty much say anything, and it's a total justification, which would mean that where they come from, they just don't take it too seriously if you molest kids. And oddly enough, those seem to be people that it's weird how they deported him, because it seems over and over again that these are the exact kind of people that European countries want to bring in.
Mm-hmm. They bring in so many, and they're bringing in more all the time. So yeah, it's odd that he got deported at all, although it was just to Switzerland. And
pretty Islamophobic, if you ask me. I mean, he's still going to have to learn German. He's still going to have to learn German in Switzerland, and therefore he's going to keep molesting kids whenever he's got a test coming up.
Uh-oh, that's tough. Yikes. Maybe he could move to the French part of Switzerland. Small price to pay. And then if he's on his way to Austria, same problem again, German. He should move to Hungary. He could go to Hungary and learn an easy language. But they won't let them in. Hungarian is supposed to be one of the hardest languages in the world to learn.
Yeah, where could this guy get an easy language that wouldn't cause him to abuse children? I don't know. Well, maybe we'll figure it out.
Well, Spanish and the other Romance languages, they might not be as difficult for him. Maybe he could go to France. Everybody else is doing it. All right. Anyway, shall we talk about Raquel Evita Saraswati?
I don't see why not.
I just wanted to say Raquel Evita Saraswati. Raquel Evita Saraswati, did you hear about her, David?
I did not.
I actually met her a few years ago, although only briefly, unfortunately. Raquel Evita Saraswati was, actually, I think she still is. I haven't heard that she had to resign. She still is, as far as I know, the diversity, equity, inclusion, and culture officer for the American Friends Service Committee. And she presented herself to them as a hijab-wearing Muslim woman who was of Latina, Arab, and some other background. I'm not seeing that right away. And also, Latina, South Asian, and Arab. And also gay. So we have a hijab-wearing gay Muslima who is Latina and Arab. The only problem with all this...
You got to check every single box there. Right?
Exactly. She checked so many boxes that that's why she got hired, as a matter of fact. one of the people on the search committee, whose own name is another melange like this, Oscar with a K, Pierre Castro. And Oscar Pierre Castro said that her background, it really touched all the points. And they said that, it was wonderful that she was a queer Muslim Latina. And so they hired her. But as it turned out, she was putting on almost all of it. Her mom says that they're German, Irish, or whatever. She's not Arab. She's not Latina. Her name was Rachel, not Raquel. Saraswati, no, it was Rachel Seidel. And she did become a Muslim in high school, according to her mom, but the rest of it is completely fake. And like you said, they were just so anxious to find somebody who ticked off all the boxes. But the thing is, the gay hijab wearing business should have tipped them off. Don't you think? That somebody who wears hijab is signaling that she accepts the Islamic idea of what a woman's role is and the importance that she ward off temptation and so on. Somebody like that is unlikely to be at the same time signaling her being observant in Islam and also flouting Islam's moral code. That should have raised flags for them, but probably they didn't know or care about the moral code of Islam, or they thought it might be Islamophobic to ask questions like that.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, it's Islamophobic to ask questions. But I mean, really, people are so excited to find someone like that they're just not gonna they're not gonna dig to do. It reminds me of it was Twitter. It was Muslims who were laughing about it, but there was that the comment that they were all laughing about was from a Muslim who's making fun of teachers at a school, and he said there was a Muslim kid in school who was talking about his two moms. His a Muslim kid was talking about his two moms.
Oh no!
So he became like he be, yeah he became like the hero of all the teachers and all the school, and they started propping him up because here was a Muslim kid with two moms, and of course then they eventually found out that
I love
dad
this.
just had two. His dad just had two wives, right?
Yes.
So it was, and then it's well now we're not interested in this story anymore, and it's like it's still different from the norm. So I mean, what I don't understand what the rules are, right? Like, if it's two lesbian women, that would be the greatest thing in the world. But if it's polygamy, then that's this horrible thing, and we need to. I don't know.
The rules are very arcane and always changing. Polygamy will probably be just fine pretty soon. I think we're heading that way. Yeah. But I did find. I wanted to read off Oscar Pierre Castro. He feels cheated now that it's all come out. When he says that when he was interviewing her, he says, "In my mind, it was great. A person of color, a queer person of color, who happens to be Muslim. It's a woman, all these things, and someone who seemed to get it." And he should have said to himself, "This is just too good. It's too perfect."
and let me guess. Also, feminist and entering and about to start transitioning to something else.
Oh, that may be. I haven't seen that, but certainly feminist.
It's got to be. I mean, every you gotta. Then you'd have every box. You'd have every last one.
Oh yeah. Meanwhile, we have the. I got to put this woman's picture up. Let me find it. Meanwhile, we have Karen Decker, who is the U.S. How do you say this, David? Chargé d'affaires. She's like the ambassador to Afghanistan, except we don't have an ambassador to Afghanistan anymore. She's in Doha, in Qatar.
Oh yeah, I read some of her tweets. This is embarrassingly horrible.
Yes, but she is the U.S. envoy, however that's said, to Afghanistan. Although she's working out of Qatar, and she tweeted She posted a series of tweets. She took them down pretty quickly after she started to get ridiculed for them. But a lot of people, of course, captured the screenshots. And the best one, my favorite of all, was this. February 15th, she tweeted this. It was just a week ago. Are Afghans familiar with black girl magic and the movement it inspired? Do Afghan girls need a similar movement? What about Afghan women? Teach me. Ready to learn. And then she tags Beyonce and Lizzo. And I think, what do you think the Taliban would do if Beyonce and Lizzo showed up in Kabul to teach Afghan women black girl magic? That's what Karen Decker thinks we need. And I think Karen Decker,
Yeah,
she's a career diplomat, and every place she's been in is in the Islamic world. But she doesn't seem to know the first foggiest thing about Islamic culture.
yeah. It just seems like when any Western politicians or anyone, ambassadors, anyone, it seems like when saying something, it's for their own Western audience rather than
Mm.
anything that could have any impact on what they're doing. Matter of fact, I mean, I I've mentioned this before, but years ago I was on a trip to Ethiopia, and there was a layover in Germany, and at the airport in Germany there was also a group of American women sent by the Obama administration to a different part of Africa, where they were going there to encourage um, women to have fewer children. So they're going as a group to give talks and lectures on why women should be having fewer children. And I was just thinking, if I'm sitting there in the airport hearing them talk about how they're going to convince all these, African women to stop having more than one or two kids, and I'm just thinking, man, your like dream scenario, your ultimate success scenario. You convince a bunch of people, a bunch of women, to have fewer kids. Um, there is precisely one group that is not ever that you have a 0% chance of them ever listening to you. And
Indeed.
proportionally they now have more and proportionally they now have more kids than you, which they already did, but now now the disparity is even greater. But it's this idea of they're taking these ideas that are Western ideas, and they're trying to go convince other people who have a completely different mindset that this is what you need to do over here. And I mean, just think about what this is looking like to the Taliban, right? A United States Western far left woman lecturing the freaking Taliban. Are you kidding me? Like that's how we're going to make a difference, right? We're it's like I mean, it's almost like I'm really I'm really interested in like what's in people's minds. So like climate change, who becomes the champion of fighting climate change? Greta Thunberg and AOC, the people who are absolutely least likely to win any support from anyone they're trying to reach, apart from their own supporters, right? People who would never in a million years reach anyone who didn't already agree with them, they become the champions of the movement. And somehow it makes sense of people's minds. Hey, we really want to make a difference in Afghanistan. I know. Let's pick the one person in all of government to be the representative to talk at the Taliban, and and then we'll see some change. My goodness, man.
Yeah, yeah, these people, their balloon never lands. When I keep putting up her picture, but when I saw her, I thought they always look like that, and it's a certain kind of cultural type in America, and they just have no idea of exactly how much they are out of touch with what they're supposed to be working on. All right,
By
yeah,
the way, isn't that like really weird? Like I don't know if they're like I really don't know. Does she know how insane she sounds to anyone outside of her bubble, or
I
Does
bet
she not
not.
know, right? And yeah, and I bet it's like this thing, like like Twitter and all the where everything you say that's along the lines of what she says for years, for the past 20 years of your life has been getting you showered with praise, and you just think, wow, everyone thinks like this, and you go and do it. Like, but it's the same thing that like Disney and all these other companies are all doing. They're all saying, this is what we hear the loudest for. This is what everyone in the world wants and everyone in the world likes. And then they do it. And hey, we can't figure out why this just isn't working.
Yep. Reminds me of,
It's
what was it? I guess it was in the year 2000, but there was some famous political, no, a movie reviewer who said, I don't understand why Ralph Nader didn't win the presidency. Everybody I knew voted for him. Well, I'm sure that's true in her whole neighborhood
yeah.
in the Upper East Side in Manhattan, But
Mhm.
anyway, okay, University of Arizona on Yom Kippur last year there was a murder. University of Arizona, a graduate student named Murad Dervish stormed into the Earth Sciences building and killed Professor Thomas Meixner, whom he thought was Jewish. And he made it very clear that he was doing this because of his hatred for Jews. Now, what's interesting is that only now is any of this coming out. When it was first reported at the time, I remember actually hearing about it at the time, and I didn't write anything about it at Jihad Watch because I thought, well, there's murders all the time, and this is a guy, the murderer's name is an Islamic name, but that's not enough to go on. There's no other indication in any of the available stories about anything regarding his motivation. But now it comes out that he was this vicious and violent anti Semite, and all that was covered up to avoid appearing Islamophobic. Even now that it's come out, nobody is really discussing why he was so anti Semitic. I know that, you know that, but they don't know that. And it's all just, so much of the world remains a mystery to these people.
It's a total mystery.
All right, time is wasting. David, I apologize. We got a lot of jihad to go. Um, let's get to the kinetic activity here. Oh, this was interesting. Palestinian Islamic scholar Sheikh Yusuf Makharza, who is with Hizb ut-Tahrir, the global organization that wants to impose Sharia and restore caliphate. And he gave a refreshing speech on February 8th. Islam and fighting are inseparable. How come? Because the infidels are insolent. Are you insolent, David?
Pretty darn insolent.
If an
It's got that
infidel,
right.
and then he says, if an infidel sees that you have a good wife, he says, I want her. Give me your wife. This happens all the time. But anyway, he says, the only thing that keeps him away from you is fear. Without fear, he will not stay away from you. This is why Allah said to Muhammad, fight for the sake of Allah. And then he says, you should prepare to go and fight the infidels in America before they come here. If you do not go after them, they will come after you. I think there's a bit of projection here. America today leads the world in corruption. Well, he's got a point there. It is the pharaoh of this world. Every day it occupies another country and commits slaughter there. A trifle overstated, but in any case, I thought it was interesting what he says about go and fight the infidels in America before they come here. This is going to happen. There are going to be, of course, some jihadis who come here and they want to fight the infidels in America. But nobody in the American among the American authorities, are paying any attention to that. Once again, it would be Islamophobic.
But uh, if they do come, we'll just get Beyonce and Lizzo, and
Yes, teach them black girl
if that
magic.
doesn't work, nothing will.
Indeed. Okay, back to Britain. We have a startling revelation. The chairman of the West Midlands Muslim Police Officers Association is under fire, Dr. Rizwan Mustafa, because he shared anti Semitic content describing Jews as filth and promoting the destruction of Israel, and the British authorities are shocked. David, shocked. How could this have happened?
It's funny. As soon as you mentioned who it was and what his position was, like the possibilities enter my mind. Okay, so he's protecting the grooming gangs behind the scenes, or he's advocating jihad behind the scenes, or something about Jews. So those are the things that pop into my head, and it's funny because one of them always turns out to be correct, and yet, I mean, the country that gave us Scotland Yard can't figure it out.
No, they have no idea. I mean, imagine how shocked they're going to be in the British government and law enforcement apparatus when they actually open the Quran for the very first time and read it, and they see that what Dr. Rizwan Mustafa says is just mainstream Islam. When all this time they've thought he was some sort of extremist, people like him were extremists, people like us calling attention to the threat were just Islamophobes. They're going to be so surprised.
I have one of my classic. I need to say it so that it's recorded, so that someone can remind me later when I inevitably forget about it. But a funny video would be like Sherlock Holmes, like 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 Scotland Yard can't figure out this one of these cases, right? Where like these guys keep turning out to be jihadis or something like this, or condemning Israel. But so they bring in Sherlock Holmes because they need someone who can figure it out. But it's like the most obvious thing in the universe. Like, wait, what? And something along those lines. A Sherlock Holmes of the obvious, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where no one can figure it out, not because it's hard, but uh,
It's
just
not.
because they've been conditioned not to see it.
Yep, it's not correct. It's not allowed. It's like that the famous cartoon of the people playing Wheel of Fortune, and it says Allahu Akbar or something like that, with one letter missing, and the guy's saying religion of peace. Can't figure it. Anyway, let's see. But that actually should go into a new section called "What Did You Expect?" There's an awful lot of that all the time. I see these stories. I think, what did you expect? The Islamic Republic of Iran gives us another. What did you expect this week? They're very happy with Hadi Matar, who is the man who stabbed Salman Rushdie and severely injured him. And so they have announced Mohammed Ismail Zareh, who is the head of the Secretariat to implement Khomeini's fatwa on execution of Salman Rushdie. They actually have a guy whose job is to try to get Rushdie's fatwa fulfilled, try to get Salman Rushdie killed. This is a government position in the Islamic Republic of Iran. And Mohammed Ismail Zareh, who is the head of the Secretariat to implement Khomeini's fatwa on execution of Salman Rushdie, which means they must have employees too. I can't. What would they do all day? What have you done today to kill Rushdie? Well, boss, I don't. It boggles the mind, David. I don't know. But anyway, they want to give Hadi Matar 1,000 square meters of farmland because Mohammed Ismail Zareh says with this action he blinded Salman Rushdie in one eye and disabled his arm to make Muslims happy. Now, he must be Islamophobic, right? Because surely Muslims couldn't be happy with the serious injury of a septuagenarian.
No, absolutely not. I mean, like, I think about these and it's like, okay, with his arm and his eye, we took out let's say 12% of Salman Rushdie. So let's go ahead and give this guy 12% of the promised reward, since he didn't get the job done, but he did his part. What do you think Rushdie's? I mean, Rushdie is very he's old. If I were him, I'd just be all out on jihad for the rest of my life, right? It's just like, okay, now
Mhm.
you finally ticked me off, and I got nothing to be scared about because I'm old. And so I'm just gonna every day I'm just gonna make another video making fun of Islam.
That would be epic, but I don't think we're going to get that.
I
Uh,
don't either.
anyway, he's never really been very serious. It's a funny thing. I mean, it's kind of ironic. Life is full of strangeness, and he's never shown that he really knows a whole lot or cares a whole lot about all this. It just happens that he wrote this novel, and now he's stuck with it forever. But anyway, they actually promised David. They said that 1,000 square meters of valuable and fertile agricultural land, but apparently this is just a parcel of a larger piece of land. And Muhammad Ismail Zareh said that the remaining part of the land will be given to the one who kills Rushdie. I would feel cheated. I believe there was a monetary reward before. They didn't say anything about giving me some farmland.
Yeah, can you imagine? I want my millions of dollars, and then you're like, oh, here's your farmland. Get to farming. I'd be like, hey, when you said you were going to give me a tilth, I thought you meant some women.
Yep, wrong tilt. Let's see. I always get these mixed up at the end. Where is what I'm looking for to be found? Oh, yes. Okay. We have several stories about women. This story actually doesn't mention women, but I'm certain that it's all about women. Story out of the Swedish press that 900 children have been abducted between 2021 and 2022. Now, these are not stranger abductions. These are family abductions, and they've been taken back to Iraq and Somalia. And so that makes me think they must all or almost all be girls. Why might that be, David?
Yeah, that happens. I mean, that's really one of the most common stories we have, except for like terrorist attacks and so on. But I mean, most things you hear is people move to the West, then their daughters are going to school, and they're around boys. And so if they get to the age where their daughters are interested in boys, you got to take them back to Pakistan or Iraq or Iran, something like that, where you can uh, either arrange a marriage for them with a cousin, or honor kill them if they refuse that.
Precisely. There's also the female genital mutilation, which is far easier to carry out back home
Mhm.
than it is in many Western countries, although that's changing, of course. There's a similar story out of Buffalo, New York, right here in the land of the free and the home of the brave, David. We have Khaled Abu Ghanem and Walid Abu Ghanem, his son. Khalid is 50 and his son Walid is 32, which means, do the math, Khalid was 18 when he became a father. They live in Lackawanna, New York, near Buffalo. And they are now in a bit of hot water. They have been arrested and charged with kidnapping because they kidnapped their daughter and sister, respectively, who is an adult American citizen. She traveled to Mexico on a vacation without her family's knowledge. And they abducted her there and took her to Yemen. And in Yemen, they threatened to kill her. Her father said, "You are no longer in the West. You are in the Middle East. Women like you are killed." And told her that she had to agree to a marriage that he had arranged, for which he would be paid $500,000. I don't know why the price was so high in this case. And that she would be killed if she refused. But all this somehow blew up. The victims non-Muslim fiance kept calling the police in Lackawanna, and they somehow tracked down Khaled and Walid. Actually, I'm not sure. The woman, I think she's still in Yemen. Um, and so that's a dangerous situation. But in any case, the father and brother have been arrested.
Yeah, there aren't too many places in the world I would rather live less than Yemen.
Yeah, that was a red flag way back when one of the first jihadis to come to the attention of American citizens, John Walker Lind, the Marin County Mujahid, who converted to Islam in California and then was found fighting alongside the Taliban against American troops in Afghanistan in 2003. He told his parents he wanted to go to Yemen to learn Arabic after he had converted to Islam. And they said, okay, have fun. And then he, he went to Yemen. He went from there to Afghanistan. Anyway, yeah, it's
Yeah. Yemen, that's I read that book. I'm Najud, age 10 and divorced.
mhm.
And it was about a girl whose parents did an arranged marriage when she was still a little girl, and the guy has sex with her, and but she, unlike so many others, decided to actually fight it, and she, as a 10-year-old, walked into a courthouse and said she wants this marriage stopped.
That took amazing courage. Anyway, David, there's a lot more jihad, but alas, we have come to the end of the hour. Don't want to tax the fine people who are here, so thank you all for being here. Be safe and well. Get yourself some anti-beheading neckwear, and and God willing, we'll see you again with more jihad next week.